Great. So, hey, I'm Bob. Okay, so we're going to get started in our normal format here. So, first thing I'm going to do is just have Gregory introduce himself. So, Greg, first of all, thanks for coming. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, my name is Gregory St. Fort, born in Brooklyn, New York, raised in Queens, New York. Just came to Madison this past June, so I'm still new in town, kind of. I guess my story is, I guess it started in terms of marketing. It started, I guess, in the most basic form of marketing that you could do at a young age, which was throwing college parties. So when I was 18, me and my friends, we was a group of guys, we was trying to accomplish a few things. We wanted to meet girls, which is one of the basic things you could do is throw a college party, right? That makes sense to everyone, right? So we right after high school, we just decided to do it, and we did pretty good. Like our first party, we had maybe 120, 130 people, and we wasn't even sure how we did it. But we did it through social media, but it wasn't called social media at the time. It was called MySpace. So at the time, that label wasn't given, but that's what we used. We did a lot of social media via MySpace. So we had this really cool strategy to get a lot of people to show up. We didn't know if it would work, but we just did it anyway. So what we did was we had a party. We had a bunch of shirts that had a MySpace address, and people that came to the party, we gave out shirts for free. We had some girls we know who were models, who had a lot of followers, and we told them, put on your MySpace page, there's a party going on. And because we know a lot of people would pay attention to that. And what was the other thing we did? We had worked with a bunch of DJs we knew who were very popular. So we put all this together, and maybe in a couple of weeks, we packed out this party. And we kept doing parties for a while, for a year or so. And we got pretty big. We did parties up to 1,000 plus people, and it was getting intense.
Wow.
We're talking about we would have buses pick up students from other campuses and bring them to the parties. I mean, we were the guys that were on a campus, and people would say, "Hey, you go to the school?" It's no, we're just we're just here to promote the party. So that's how it worked, right? You had to know a lot of people. And know a lot of the people from the organizations, right? So any of the fraternities, sororities, whatever, you have to know all these different people if you really want to effectively do a party. And we got pretty good. During the time, we were we want to do a little bit better at this, so we needed a website. And this is how I got into web design, which is actually a great asset to have as a marketing person. So we figured it'd be a great strategy if we could take photos at our parties, and people would have to sign up to our website to get the photo, because we would capture their email address that way. So I was like, let me just try to learn how to do a website real fast. So I did a website when I was 12 years old, but it wasn't a real website, but it was a website about the Knicks. It was cool at the time, because there was no reason for it. I was like, let me just do some websites. And I had a website, I had a background music, I had all the rosters and all this stuff, and I was like, yeah, I was just a big Knicks fan. This is when the Knicks were good, not now, right? This is when Patrick Ewing was still playing, and they were pretty good. So I did a website for it. It wasn't design-wise, but functionality, it did what I wanted it to do. And people would say, hey, so who did your website? I'm like, well, I did. And how much you charge? I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I had made up some random number. I said $200. I didn't know what was the real market value, because I wasn't in business for that. But funny enough, that kind of helped out get some extra money to just put into our parties and the different events. Our events started to expand out a little bit. So we're still into the college crowd. So we started doing bus trips to Six Flags and Dorney Park, and those are really fun. I mean, they're a little bit wild at the same time, but they were fun. So we would get three or four coach buses, and we're talking about almost 200 people, and get them on a bus, and we would go to Six Flags, and then we have drinks on the bus. It was kind of crazy. It was crazy. We worked out a good relationship because everything was based on relationships. So the bus companies were they just kind of yeah, as long as no one gets hurt. so we worked it out, and we had such a great time. Built a lot of good relationships, even to this day. The people who came to our parties and bus trips, I'm still friends with them and so forth. Going forward, I had another transition in terms of marketing. So now I'm a web designer and I throw parties. And the party market was getting, I guess, oversaturated in New York.
because it was again hard to compete. So there was a few other promoters who were going through the same demographic as us, but they were getting celebrities at their party for the same price point. So we're talking about like we're doing $20 admission, and someone else does a party $20 admission, but Trey Songz is there. So it's like when people were like, we were saying, Greg, I'm not gonna come. So I can't even get mad because like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you compete with that on the same night, same exact demographic, same exact promotion? Yeah. So we was like, you know what? Let's escape this market because it's not gonna work for us. And we got into the perfect market if you happen to know a lot of women. We got into fashion, which made sense. So I learned a lot of stuff from the party, understanding how we did our marketing there. We figured we should be able to carry over to almost anything because we just knew we wanted to do stuff. That was it. So in fashion, we ended up taking the photographer we knew, who took the pictures from our parties, from all these different people we knew, hairstylists and makeup artists. That makes sense. And then we knew some models already. So we just did a photo shoot. Never been to a photo shoot ever before. I just like, yeah, we're gonna just do portfolio development and we're gonna charge money for it, or whatever, we're gonna do it. So we did our first shoot and we went all in. We had got video for it, everything. I have no idea what I'm doing, but we just gonna do it. And it came out pretty good. We had some really great photos. And from there, we started to produce portfolio development for models who wanted to eventually use it for agencies, management, and so forth. And then we developed a brand name for it. We called it Top Notch Trend. So we wanted to keep an open name so we can actually use it for any aspect relevant to fashion. So this was really fun. Obviously, me and a lot of women too, which is also an added bonus, right? It is what it is. That was like the added bonus. So it was fun and it was like very free. Now at this time, I still had a 9-to-5. So I had a 9-to-5 as an accountant in an insurance company. So it was like, what kind of thing? Like, how does that work? But I wanted to pay the bills, and it was a job that let me be flexible. So like, if I couldn't make it in because of a party, they was like, yeah, sure, Greg, you're a nice guy. So I was like, all right, cool. So I just kind of kept that job until I figured out what I'm gonna do to eventually leave it. And I had a great relationship with them because they knew eventually I'm gonna leave at some point. Whenever that point is, it's fine. Which is kind of that was a big point into my life as a whole, just having that flexibility in life. Even if I wanted to go back there now, I could. I'm not planning to, but if I wanted to, I could. So as we got into fashion, we wanted to kind of expand. So we didn't want to just do portfolio development because we were still getting saturated because photographers were offering like, hey, we'll do it for free. And it was like, oh, that's kind of tough. So we were like, we want to increase our branding by producing events and use some of the same formula we did for our parties, but do it for events. So as we were doing what we call the pop-up shop, where you just turn any venue into a store, and you just kind of provide a space for designers, people designing accessories and so forth, to sell their pieces. And we started to get a name for ourselves. We got connected with some celebrity stylists and makeup artists and so forth, and they kind of helped us get into New York Fashion Week events. So this is like the Mercedes-Benz official New York Fashion Week events, and we would get like, priority seating, which was very interesting because we weren't fashion guys. We just understood, marketing. At this time, I didn't even know I didn't even call it marketing at the time. I just said, yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, but I don't know exactly what I'm doing really. I didn't have an elevator pitch. I was just, yeah, like people would just see my social media. Oh, this guy is this short guy with a bunch of girls. He must be good. Like if you've seen it, it's like, yeah, because models are tall. I'm a short guy, so it was like almost a gimmick in a sense. And people just figure he has to be good at whatever he's doing. So we would get into the fashion week events. We get these special invites. And it was great because we would be like in a front row seat and like celebrities on the other side. So this is like, oh wow, you guys are doing something right. Then because of that, we use that to leverage our own New York Fashion Week events, which I still do. And those are like, I guess from a branding standpoint, one of the biggest events I do because we still get like celebrities there, even though they're like C-list celebrities, but they do show up. These are like the actors that are in movies, but maybe not the main role or something like that. We've had like boxers and athletes show up and so forth. So those kind of help with our branding, and we do it each time. We get about 350 to 400 people show up on a very competitive night. So we competed against the Mercedes-Benz show, but people still come to ours because we appeal to a different audience. Which is part of our marketing message in terms of fashion, which is the idea that like everything is fashion. So it's not just because you're a model, but everyone essentially is dressing in a certain way to express who they are. So we went for that specific crowd. So everyone who comes to our event, they just want to feel like they're in the fashion world for the night, as opposed to I don't do anything in fashion, which is a little bit too much. Like this is still based on the fact that we started with our college party. It was just like that everyday person who just wants to have fun for the night and get away from their classes and whatever they're doing in life.
So how did you find that specific audience? So you're talking about differentiating against another major event that you were a part of.
Yeah.
But then you found this target market that
Yeah.
was your sweet spot. How did you narrow that? How did you get those people to show up and more of them?
Yeah, I think it's all based on always tying everything to social media. So it's actually the same thing going back from the MySpace days. It's actually the same type of similar message, which is based on a lot of the media we put out. So what I figured was when people see certain images, like display it to them, they're gonna figure if they fit into that or not. So we kind of made sure like all our images were kind of balanced enough. Whereas like, that looks really nice and I can see myself wearing that, as opposed to, that looks really nice, I would never wear that, but it's nice, right? You've seen stuff like that in fashion. So we try to make sure that message is conveyed because it's still a reflection of like our own personalities, because we're not fashion gurus or anything like that. We just understood marketing, which is a blessing in itself because we were in a position where people who love fashion can't even get into, but we were there because of this more understanding of marketing and what people perceive, and we wanted to have people who believe in the same things we believe in, and we make sure we maintain consistency in everything we ever did, which was that like we love doing stuff, but it's always a fun way, although his business is still fun, making sure that balance always existed. So did that answer that?
Yeah. So you were putting it out there, and then people were gravitating to it.
Yep.
And what you were putting out there was your image in terms of, well, presented by images.
Yep.
Right, your reputation.
Yep.
Were you publishing anything else to attract that audience?
A lot of it was mostly organic, honestly. It was like literally social media was probably 80%. Anything else was, I guess, this positive association, like strategic partners, because we learned that from parties. So if we had the right DJ, the right models there, the right venue, more people would come. So in fashion, we made sure we partnered up with the right designers, celebrity stylists, whatever, any other entity that was already known in that space, and we put them all in the same party, if you will, and more likely people would show up, as long as these different entities have some kind of relation to who we are as a brand.
Yeah. So these influencers then that you've established, this network, how do you cultivate that network? How do you continue to add to that network?
I think for me it was more, I think anytime I spoke to someone, because these people were either one more known than us most of the time, and probably even better positioned financially, but we always kind of taught each other to speak as if you already have it. So it's more about the confidence in the conversation. So I always thought about like how I always perceived. I mean, it goes back to a party, so it's always the same thing. Anything I could think of, it goes back to that same experience. So when we threw parties, and the only way a party to work, we had to talk to girls, and we had to make sure we talk to them in a sense where this party's gonna be the best party ever, even though we never threw a party before. And so with networking was the same thing. So when I'm talking to someone who is big in fashion, or if you're talking to someone big in technology, it's actually the same confidence that you have to have, because like I'm starting up something, but it's not that I hope it works, but it will work. And when you kind of convey that in how you talk, then people are more likely to gravitate to you. Like, I don't even understand what you're saying, but it will happen, so I'm going to go for it.
Like the fake it till you make it kind of thing?
Yeah, kind of like that.
I'm still faking.
Yeah. It's kind of like that. I don't want to call it, I don't like, sometimes the fake has a negative connotation, but I mean, just a lot of just that pure confidence, that will versus hope. Because I don't like the word hope. It's like, it means hopefully it'll happen, I don't know. Like will means like whatever variables and circumstance that comes into your life, you're still gonna make it happen. So that's kind of how we establish everything.
Yeah.
So going into all this, like I haven't even talked about my actual company now, Let's Keep Building.
So you got, this is Top Notch, right?
Top Notch Strength.
So that's the brand that we're talking about,
Yep.
which is still very active on the events.
Yep.
Okay.
So what we ended up doing was, Let's Keep Building. How did that emerge? So throughout all these things, these events and different stuff we were trying. There's more stuff to the story I didn't discuss, but there's a lot of different things we were just trying out. A lot of failures, mind you, involved in this. Like we've had parties where no one showed up. We had fashion events where no one showed up. So it took time for everything. We after every meeting, like me and my friends, and I guess you say my team members, but they were my friends. We would end up saying, end of every meeting, we would say, "Let's keep building," and this was just to encourage ourselves to keep going throughout like any failures and even some of the circumstances in life, because through all of us have like these things in our lives that can easily set you back. Some of them will set you back, but let's keep building was the mindset to keep going despite circumstance, despite this, because your success means more to a lot of other people, whether it's your community, family, your kids, or whatever the case may be. So we would just say this just as a way of confidence, and we started to realize like we would just say it to other people, and other people would just say it back. And I was like, we'll just turn this to a company. Like, it makes more sense because this represents everything, and it helped complete, I guess, put everything together. Because people were saying, hey, so you're the fashion guy. I was like, no, I'm not. It's just that I just happen to be in that industry at the moment. So I ended up wanting to rebrand everything for that purpose, to consolidate all these different ventures we were doing, whether good or bad. When I say good or bad, whether it worked or it failed, but just to consolidate that experience into one company and just put it into one story, because that's what it was. It was really just one story, just in a lot of different, what seems like random industries, is all just the same basis of trying to do something and doing something that helps people for what they want. Because everything we did was always cultivated other people benefiting in terms of what they want to do career-wise. So when we did parties, if you were a DJ, like DJs didn't really have a name for themselves, now they're working with celebrities, and this is true because of what we were doing before. Some of the models, the same thing. Some of the other industries. So when we did Let's Keep Building, we started to expand our market. So when we did our pop-up shops and those type of events, it wasn't just fashion anymore. Like we would have like book signings, we would have computer technology software, we have all these different industries, because that still reflected who we were. Because we were just always using applications, so now let's showcase applications. We were always reading books, so now let's showcase these books in our events. It's just kind of, as long as they all follow the same values that we did, you figure it's going to make sense, and it's going to help amplify our message across to other people. So that's what Let's Keep Building, that's how that came about, just everything coming together.
Because it was a statement that you kept concluding with, and you started to feel like you were being branded in the fashion industry, and you didn't want that.
Nope.
So that was the time to start anew.
Yeah.
And that initiative is still very active.
Yes.
Right. So other things that you've got planned for that? Where do you see that going? Let's Keep Building.
So Let's Keep Building. It's developing into, like, I guess, different sides. So right now, I like to define it as a marketing company, more of a social marketing company, because we don't just take any client. It's just anything based on a specific message, like a positive value, or the person behind it, they started it for a specific reason. Like, there's a story behind it. It can't be like, I just want to make money. Like, we all want to make money, right? But as long as it's someone who is following their passion and overcoming certain things, as long as that story is embedded in what they're doing, then we figure we work with them. We end up building out like an entrepreneur community in a sense. So everyone we work with are a part of our community of people. So we have like our own internal communication, and this includes like, we have a member system in a sense. We have clients, and we actually all communicate together, just kind of helping each other overcome different things, advice, providing qualified referrals. So these type of things, we kind of made our own community of that. In addition, we also are working on developing software to basically brand this communication, because we figured if we have a software that has a story behind it, people will be more likely to use that. So that's something that we are working on. We already started working on. And this software, the key piece that we want embedded into it would be, it would help people on a national level kind of create their own events and find the right people for these events, because this software would be just only include people from this community. So you're likely to only work with people that it's kind of like a qualified referral by doing so.
So you've created your own marketplace.
Yes.
And now you're building software to help connect that market?
Yes, pretty much it.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
And you also have a role at 100 State.
Yes. So 100 State. So I'm the event manager. It's kind of like the marketing guy at 100 State. Because I didn't really care about the title. It's just I ended up doing a whole bunch of stuff there. So how I found out when I moved to Madison in June, me and my girlfriend,
Basically, I met Andrew Conley. He's the director at 100 State. Met him like randomly at a park, just randomly. Like I was looking to meet people, so like I only knew my girlfriends. So I was like I gotta meet other people. So I would just go up to people and say, "Hey, my name is Greg. I'm from New York. I'm new in town." Literally, because I was thinking of the numbers, right? In New York, there's 8 million people. In Madison, it's 240,000. So I have a higher chance of meeting the right person than I would. It is what it is. Like I'm gonna hit. It's impossible. If I could do that in New York and try to meet all these, and met people here, I know I'm gonna do it. Like confident. So I met him, and we never just talked about business or anything like that because I don't actually like to start relationships on that. I have to like the person too. So I met him at a park. We went to a bar. I was in Wisconsin, so that made sense. We hung out a few times, and one time he had asked me, "What are you doing now?" I'm like, "I'm working from home right now." He told me he should check out 100 State, and this is when 100 State was actually at 100 State. Like we have a new office now, and I had checked it out. I was like, "Wow, this is a cool concept because it's similar to what I want to do, which is what I'm doing, which is creating a whole community of people and helping them build their passion." So he was like, "Yeah, I'm interested, but I have to go back to New York for a couple months." So in September and October, I had to go back to New York because I had a New York Fashion Week event in September, and I was already organizing it from here, but I wanted to make sure it was all good. And I had a few other events lined up, so I was like, before I just, I kind of picked up and went when I came here, so I wanted to make sure some stuff are still in motion. So when I came back to Madison in October, I reconnected with Andrew. I mean, I kind of was communicating with him throughout the time, but I met him again and told him, like, hey, I want to get on board with 100 State. Back in my mind, I'm like, I could probably play a bigger role at 100 State than just be a member. Being a member is great, but I figured my skill set would match because the same values. My Oleski building and 100 State had the same values. So I kind of just talked to him about it. Hey, would you guys want someone to handle your events? He was like, yeah, we actually are looking for something. I kind of like talked my way into it for a second. There's no like real interview. I actually never had an interview in my life, so it was like I never did a resume before ever. Like everything I had was always because I met someone and talked to them, and it was like, hey, are you interested in this? So it was always something like that. So I ended up talking my way through and became the event manager there. And I just had some different ideas and ways we could do events and send out the same message, but kind of amplify it a bit. Do a few more partnerships than we did before. And just other outreach to the community to help, with one, satisfy some diversity, because what 100 State does is great, and there's other people who did not know about it, and in my head, I was like, how do you not know about it? There's not that many people here, so it's like, it was like, for me, it was kind of, it was throwing me off, like, there are a lot of people who are looking to do something amazing, but they don't know who to connect with, so I figured, well, if I'm the event manager and if I'm involved in it, I can kind of help reach out to more people so they can just check out 100 State. It's not even just to be a member, but this might be something that you could benefit from 100 State. And so far, that's been good. I mean, we've increased membership, we've got additional sponsorship, and our member retention has been better, because that's probably what I care about the most, is like, are the current members actively involved? So I kind of created events for that purpose, just to deepen or make the connection even stronger for current members.
So do you have a formula for event? You've got a wealth of knowledge on the event marketing side. Do you have a formula for that? Like how you go about marketing an event, where you start, what you aim to hit?
Yeah, I do. I guess I ask myself this very basic question, like what do I define as success? And then I kind of prioritize that, and I do everything based on that. So sometimes you have some events, you define as success because 500 people are there, and that's like the most important thing. Most of my events, that's not the case. It's not really the amount of people. It's normally what level of engagement I want. So the first thing I say, well, okay, I want this level of engagement because I want this type of conversation to have. And based on the nature of the event, it will lead to that. It will lead to that based on, and you have to figure out how you're gonna stimulate these other activities to create this engagement. So like, I guess I could run through a basic example of a simple event I did at 100 State. We did a game night because they never had a game night before. So I called it 100 Games Night. The simple formula was, you got to identify what's the demographic. So in New York, if I did an event, I would serve wine. In Wisconsin, I have to serve beer, right? It makes sense. Like these are just simple changes. So I was like, okay, I have to make sure there's beer. So we have a good relationship with Mobcraft.
beer is there, so I know that that's going to be part of the, as far as attraction of people. The other thing was, one thing I really wanted for that event was defining success, was engagement of 100 state members. Because I noticed that there's 187 members, and not everyone knows each other, and not everyone had a conversation with each other that had nothing to do with what they're doing. Like, so I figured a game night would be a great icebreaker, because you're just playing a game. And it would increase collaboration, because a lot of games has collaboration, which is part of our mission. So I was like, I want to enhance that. So I was like, well, here's a good way to do it. If I don't bring any games, and all the games are based on the members, so this kind of create them have their own responsibility to collaborate with others. And the other thing I did was I wanted to increase conversation, so no one knows what games are going to be there, because now you have to talk about it, right? Like if we just brought a bunch of games here, it's like, who has this game? Anybody has this? Like you start talking, you can't say what do you do now. You have to talk about the game. 'Cause I know sometimes like with certain networking events, it's like, so what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? I mean, what about who I am? You know what I mean? Because that sometimes it doesn't coincide at every point in life. So I wanted to kind of just change that by just more of a social event. And in the end, people are going to talk about what they do anyway. It's just that it won't be the basis of the conversation, which was the whole point. The other thing was defining, knowing how much engagement I want, I have to define how many people I want to be there. So for that event, 150 people wouldn't maximize engagement, right? Because you would not talk to that many people. Because when you see too many people, you stop at like maybe 10 people because you realize I'm not gonna talk to everyone anyway. It just feel like it's too much. At a smaller, let's say we went for a goal of 35 to 50 people, we figured, well, everyone's gonna have a chance to play, either talk to everyone or at least play a game in about 2.5, 3 hour event. So that's kind of how I did it. And with how often I push out my message of the event, I did a lot of more personal invites because it's not a large number. So I did actually reach out to specific people who I know are influencers within the 100 state community, because I know there are people. So you ever want to go somewhere and you ask someone else if they're going, because if they're going, you're more likely to go. And then there's these other people, if they're going, then you might not go because they're going. So you're going like this. So that's realistic, right? We all actually do that. So I kind of just do that as a basis. So I know there's whatever X amount of 100 state members where people will ask, hey, what are you doing for the weekend? So I made sure those people who are likely to get those questions asked of them are definitely going. So that's how I started it. So this is a kind of simple type of idea. Like if you want 100 people to be somewhere, like for example, you can either try to invite 100 people or have another 10 people, bring another 10 people kind of thing. So which one is easier? So I kind of work on that. So if these 10 members or 8 members or whatever are going, then good.
So do you use your influencer channel no matter what the quantity, no matter what the scale, whether it's 10 or 100 or 1,000 or a party of 10,000? Would you still,
Yeah.
I mean, the influencer network is the most imperative.
Yes, that's the biggest thing, because as I said, when we did our first party, that's what worked, right? The DJ was good, there was models there, and whoever they influence were more likely to come. And if what happens is if those people have the same message as you, then you're fine, because it's almost the same as you saying it to that person. So I always do it no matter the quantity, and I just scale it accordingly, because if you're doing, as a project gets bigger, now your influencers can be a smaller project. An influencer could be an individual. If you're doing a big project, the influencer has to be a company. Now, like if we're doing a big marketing technology thing, or like I would say, hey Matthew, can Widen be involved in this? Because that would be part of the strategy, because now you need a big entity to draw whatever. Because you figured if you want 1,000 people to be involved in the event, you might need at least, to do it work smart, get maybe to about 10 entities or 5 entities to bring 100, 150 people each, based on their influence level.
So how do you nurture these influencers? How do you keep relationships with them? How do you keep giving them value? And what do you do to continue that stream?
I think I keep a lot of, I try to work as smart as possible. What I've always done is, because of, I still have my networks in fashion and so forth, and I get a lot of items, so I give away a lot of stuff to people who I've worked with before. Like, here's some free shirts, here's a free this, here's that, here's this. And the other thing is I invite to a lot of other events. So I'll have events that's tailored to just people who I work with, who are my influencers, and actually have them all in one experience, something very sociable, just to kind of keep that relationship going. Because I think or a business relationship is the same basis of every other relationship. So like if you're dating someone, like if you don't take them out on a date, how do you think how long the relationship's gonna last, right? Like it's kind of like really it's all the same thing. Like if you never call the person, you never take them out to dinner, don't see a movie, a little text here and there, you never buy gifts, the relationship will break down. It might be great month 1, month 2, but if you want to keep that going, you have to do these things that work for every relationship. So that's kind of how I keep it long lasting.
So you have your own events just to cultivate the relationships with the people that can influence other events.
Yep.
And the attendance of those.
Yep. And I just kind of present it differently. Like normally it's something free and there's some kind of specific incentive that they'll have that they may benefit from later on.
How do you get new influencers? Let's say you're going to do a new event. Let's say Widen contracts you to do something with our events that we do. And you are not connected with the influencers in the marketing technology space. How do you get in? How do you create a new influencer within your network?
So I like to do a lot of, I do try to shake hands with as many people as possible. More than likely though, there is someone who's already in your network who actually knows those people that you need to have access to. Sometimes it doesn't have to be an influencer who knows this group. It could be someone who, I think because of the brand message I have, I tend to get a lot of support just because of that. Like, so, everyone wants to be able to build something, whether it's something in their life that's great for them. And because of that, I tend to get a lot of inbound, hey, you should connect with this person. Hey, you should connect with that person. And I actually just kind of organize it internally. So I know here's my listing of different people who can access certain networks as needed. So I might not go for it right away, but when it's needed, I pretty much have some kind of, me being a part of 100 State, strategically that makes sense, right? Like, because I kind of was involved with the entire entrepreneurship community, just like overnight, essentially. Like I'm new in town, I'm an event manager, so I know that said a lot for myself. So just kind of creating that kind of experience, and then once I was there, I kind of made sure I talked to almost every member I possibly could, because I know everyone is talented in different spaces, have different personality traits, and so forth. And I kind of just, some of it is tactical, some of it is intuitive.
Do you do online gatherings as well as the physical gatherings, physical events, online events?
I'm not a big fan of online events. I've done online competitions of some sort where, there's a giveaway for some kind of incentive or something like that. Other than that, I haven't really done any webinars or anything like that. I guess I'm more into the face-to-face kind of experience.
So what's the largest challenge with event marketing? Where does event marketing flawed? Where do we need to improve upon event marketing tactics to make events that much better?
I think because a lot of the events, they don't include, sometimes people do not make sure everyone left with the message that they wanted to be conveyed by having the event. So that's the biggest thing. So you have, why are you doing this event? There has to be a reason why. Whatever it is, you have to be a reason why. And you want everyone who attended to be, I guess, somewhat within that reason. So if you had a line, this is the reason why, you figure some people are going to overthink it, some people are going to be right on the mark, some people are not going to get it, but you want more people above that line or on that line that kind of they left with this specific message, whatever it was. So, most of my events are based on, it's for some kind of entity, whether it's myself or someone else, and I want them to kind of leave with that. And I think a lot of entities, sometimes they do too much at an event, and you forget why you were there. You could say you had fun, so that's sometimes we miss that, right, in terms of reviews. So if you're a business, you did an event, everyone that event was great, that was great, that was great. But did they leave with the message you wanted? I've seen people who presented a product, we're gonna celebrate the release of whatever product it was, of this new camera that we have. We want everyone to know about it. They'll throw it'll be a party, there's drinks, there's a whole bunch of different people, singles are mingling together, they're finding dates, there's whatever it is, I don't know, there's giveaways, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, and no one actually knows what the camera is. But everyone had a great time. So I think, and then what happens is, as the business owner, they're thinking, yeah, everyone, they want me to do the event again, but
that's not the point for them to simply enjoy the event. The point was them to gain knowledge or message of whatever that is. And I think that's like the biggest, by far, the biggest thing missing.
So when you talked about level of engagement being a primary driver of these successes, how do you measure that post-event? How do you determine and surface engagement relative to the fun factor and the swag that you were given away? How do you separate the two, and how do you know?
So this is one. I mean, I'm not very into surveys too much, but I do some kind of basic survey like aftermath. Hey, give me some feedback. Two, the biggest thing is I ask the feedback of all the other partners or influencers who are involved, because they tend to have a different viewpoint in terms of people. So if you're an influencer, that means you know how to pay attention to how like 30 people are reacting to your presence in the room, right? So however they feel is more likely to be however X amount of people feel. So that's more indirect, but I do get that feedback from the influencers. Beyond that, I think I ask for, the feedback. So when I do send out like an email or something, just asking for feedback, I could tell what people were paying attention to based on the feedback, right? Like if you went out to a bar and, most of the time if you ask for feedback, it's probably gonna be relevant. It might be relevant to drinks, which means they understood that drinks were there, right? Like if you don't, like if you ask a question on something or response on something, that means you recognize that it existed. So if someone said they wanted more of this, that means, well, like for a game night, I wish there was this games. That means they paid attention to what games were already there, right? So that's kind of how I do. It's not, this is data that anybody could get, but it's understand how you analyze it. So I analyze it in that way. And it's more sample sets than trying to get a whole overview of information. Like you don't need 100 people's feedback. You just need maybe 5 or 10 based on how big the event was. And then all the influencers and partners, like if they say they came away with something, whatever it is, then you're good. In terms of engagement, when I do an event, I have a team of people who are part of the event, and we're kind of like listening to conversations, and you can actually hear at what are people talking about and at what time. So like I'm gonna use the game night because I explained it before. If we did a game night and like the team recognized as soon as the game night started, everyone was talking about what do you do, then this is something we need to change, because I mean that's the engagement isn't there. They're not talking about the games first. Like they talked about it later on, that's good, but they weren't talking about it first. So we would just kind of change things. Like something we would do differently would probably be as soon as people walk in the door, there's an activity. Like whatever the activity is, it has nothing to do with what you do. So that's kind of like, I guess, how we would use feedback and make adjustments accordingly.
That's great. Any questions popping up out here? Dawn.
What brought you to Madison?
Just like old men, my girlfriend.
That seems to be a theme.
Yeah, right? My girlfriend, basically she had a bunch of job opportunities. She's a toy engineer. So her dream job was Mattel, an American Girl. So she's a toy engineer at American Girl. So that's what she wanted. And I was like, well, I could work anywhere. I just got to learn the market, and I think I'll be fine. So here we are.
Nice.
Well, welcome to Madison.
Thank you.
Any other questions popping up right away?
Logistically, how do you kind of keep all the logistics in order? Do you have other people helping you, or are you using a software?
Other people, a combination of other people helping me, and I use Podio as my project management tool. So I use that because I like it's customizable, scalable. So I input a lot of different data, like my own formulas essentially. So like example type of data I input in is obviously how many people attended the events, what venues. For each person who's an influencer, what size of event that was a result of their attendance. So if I have influencer A, B, and C, every time A and B are involved in an event, then more than 200 people show up, and then C, every time they come, is a little bit less. Then you kind of figure out your own numbers based on that. But that's like an example. I use that for like everything. My entire team communicates in it.
It's Podio?
Yeah, Podio.
So you have your own equations then to try to project attendance of an event based on the influencer that you're going to engage.
Yep.
So if you bring Matthew, you're going to get 2 people. If you bring Gregory, you're going to get 1,000, right?
Yeah, but yes, essentially it's like my own formula. It's not a perfect formula, of course, but I'll say so far so good. I mean,
So let's go into your own personal development. How do you keep up with the trends?
I do a lot of. I think I do a lot of. I do a lot of reading, but it's not from one specific website or anything. Like I just have. I'm a big TED Talk person, so I'm always watching a TED video. I used to be a Mashable fan, but not as much now. I don't like their content as much as they used to. But I read a lot from there. I do. One of my other tools I use is a Hootsuite. So I have a keyword search, and like every time I see new stuff there, I'll look at it and I'll just read. It could be a random article. I actually don't really worry too much about who posted it. I just look at it, and then kind of based on other stuff I read, you could cross-reference internally and figure if it made sense or not. But I just kind of do a lot of that. Like I'll spend like my Sunday just reading that, and anything else is like a few books. Most of the books I read, it's funny enough, have nothing to do with marketing. It's more to do with just your mindset, and it has to do with entrepreneurship, but it's more mindset. Like my favorite book, Simon Sinek, Start with Your Why. I think that's how I kind of like to. It helped me articulate what I already believed in. So that's like my favorite book. But I read books like that.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Any conference?
Can I ask a
Go ahead,
question?
Lexi.
So when you're reading and you have ideas that you want to share with your team, how do you do that? Is this all in person that you're talking
Yeah.
with, or is it all over email, or?
Most of the time is in person. So if we have an idea, because what we do, we use Podio to just actually post just the basis of idea, and at some point we all come together and discuss and see what can be executed, or if that actually fits into what we normally do. Because I'm a big believer that everything has to kind of connect with each other. So something could be good, but doesn't really connect with what everything else we're doing. We probably would just put it off to the side, or that's later on. But that's right.
And so you have the trust within your team to just comment on everyone's ideas, and that atmosphere already exists?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
How do you see trends, big marketing trends, like you've heard of the Internet of Things and big data and wearables, all these big, how does that, and how do you see that interacting with events?
I guess the idea of, understanding, I think it's data driven right now. Like everyone is creating things that eventually creates more data. I think one thing that as far as being forward thinking, is kind of being the best person who knows how to use that data. Because like everyone is, like Facebook's getting data, your wearable, I have a wearable, like that's adding more data, whatever. But it's all about who's maximizing that data and creating something that becomes a product of that data. I think that's pretty much it. Advertisement became cool I don't want to say cool, but they became relevant because this is how you maximize the use of X amount of engagement on Facebook or on the web as a whole. But I think if you find other ways, like Nike, for example, when you run, they have all this data that's there. If you actually made an app that connect with their API and created something else, then that would become popular. Because right now, it's like, you go use the Nike app. I used it this morning, that's why it's in the top of my head. It's like, I ran X amount and X amount of miles for the month or for the day. That's good, and then after a while it gets boring because I'm a millennial still, so it's like stuff gets boring really fast. So if you, but there was like another app that accessed that data and turned it into some kind of, it could be a competition, it could be like maybe they can, I don't know, maybe this already exists. It connects with other applications that tracks your running, and whoever runs the most wins a free sneaker from Nike or something like that. Like just this use of the same data, I think makes more sense. Or there's so many different ways you could think of it, but that was just a random off the top of the head, right? But I think that's forward thinking, is using data.
Yeah. There's a local company, Solimo Technology. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
All right. So beacon-based technologies and knowing your location at events is a huge target. Do you see any of that having value for marketers?
Yes. Just understanding, I guess, especially for events, if you could figure out when you do an event of different types, like what time do people normally attend, what time do they normally leave. Probably a bit more valuable data for me would be what part of the room these people are. So like, cause sometimes that's data like I don't think we have really, or we definitely don't have, is this person A moved from this side of the room to that side of the room? That becomes relevant for, because I do, especially like the pop-up shops, or if you're doing tabling, like you want to know, like, okay, at what point in the room people normally going, because you wouldn't want to put a table in a place where no one goes. Or maybe you do if you want to change the flow of people. It's kind of understanding that, even like if you're setting up a bar, I mean, you would want to know like how much time do people spend around the bar, because you'll know if someone stays at one point in the bar and they leave really fast, and you know it was a packed night, that means they hated that they had to wait for their drink. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you have to kind of, those type of data, I think, but more specific to a venue, like very anal in terms of the location they are in within the space.
Yeah, okay. So let's, any other things popping up?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Al.
Obviously, we're into managing digital assets. So images, videos, how do you use photography? How do you use video, either in the planning stages of an event that's upcoming, or capturing it at the event and then using it post-event?
Okay. Yeah, because I think I checked out Smart Image. I was interested in that because I currently use SmugMug for my images. So what we do in terms of, I do like to collect all the different images from an event. So normally at an event I do promote some kind of a hashtag of some sort, and I use that to download all the different images that people took, and normally I bring in my own photographer or something like that, or a video guy. And I use SmugMug only because, main reason is because for like my photographer video, I could just send them a link and they could upload it to my database, instead of me like sending them use WeTransfer, which is annoying because I gotta download it and re-upload it. I don't like to use that, but that's what I use for that. In terms of how I use it as, once I have all these photos and videos, I use it in the promotion of another event or the same event, because normally sometimes it's a series, because it helps people kind of understand what to expect in some capacity. Like even if you have a video reel of different events you do and everyone's dressed up, then you don't have to say what the dress code is. Everyone's gonna figure, well, maybe I should be dressed up. If you put a video, everyone's dressed down. It's like people actually like just kind of respond to these messages in media. So that's how I use it.
Cool. Melanie?
When you're gathering intel at your events, like where people are congregating, do you place influencers in certain areas? And how do you prepare also, this is kind of a double, like your influencers for really being there and really gathering the information that you're looking for?
So each influencer, I kind of make sure, like, there's different level of influencers. You have those who are just there and you're just enjoying the event. I just know that you would help bring a lot of people. Then you have the influencers who are partners in the project. So the partners is more about what did they define as success. Once I knew that, like, normally I try to make that relate to the core, because it's all case to case. It's kind of a hard question to answer, but like whatever they define as success, how did that work with the success of the entire event? And that's like kind of the data I focus on, because they're not gonna be able to pay attention to everything, but they will pay attention to whatever is gonna make them feel successful for the project.
Yeah. Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions popping up? All right, let's go into these. I want to go back to these influencers. I want to talk about how you differentiate, because these influencers are likely influencers for other people too.
Mhm.
They're constantly being tapped.
Mhm.
These authors are constantly being tapped. Yes, it's part of how they promote their books, but
Yeah.
at the same time, you're jockeying for position with these influencers.
Mhm.
So how do you differentiate? Why Gregory and why not another place?
That's a tough question. I would say one of the biggest things in terms of the value add, because I guess I try to do enough, well not try, I do enough to be an influencer of the influencer or to the influencer. So I normally influence influencers, so it's a little bit different in terms of positioning. It could be different ways by literally helping them add something new to what they already do. So like, hey, this is an author. Like, hey, I have something that could help you with produce your product a little on a different scale that no one else probably could, or tap into a market that you normally couldn't. So I have to have something where they can win from this collaboration, and no one else can really offer at the same time. So it's kind of having different bait for each time. So there's not one straight answer for that, but I would say that's it.
Yeah. Scenario, let's say you're given $100,000 to spend just in new technologies. What are you going to do with that $100,000? What are you going to fix? What are you going to discover? What are you going to improve upon with that $100,000? Where are you going to spend it?
As far as technology, I think it still goes back to kind of what I want is like a more a true event application that's really meant for, like, if you're a company organization or a marketer and you want to produce events, like this tool will kind of has everything in one, because a lot of the other tools, like one of the most popular ones, like Eventbrite, for example, that's a very popular for events. However, it doesn't really give you much. It gives you something, but it's like after a while you realize it's like nothing because it's something that you can get other places, or it's not granular enough, or whatever. It has a lot of holes in it. I would want something. I would want to create something from the ground up, which would tie in the ability to create social media campaigns, collaborate with other people, and produce data for your events. Like I would want to create something like that where it all comes together, because that's still the basis of what I do. Is like, how do you tie in your social media campaign into an event, and a campaign that goes on after your event, so people remember what they came to the event for. Because sometimes it's not even what happens at the event; it's what happens afterwards that matters more than anything. So I'd want to create something for that.
Cool. So any other questions pop up? We're nearing 11 o'clock.
What other event apps have you tried besides Eventbrite?
I tried Splash. That's for like just creating event pages. Nothing too crazy for that. All it is more elegant, but it does pretty much the same thing. What else? There's a few other ones that's more for just creating, because a lot of ones I did try were for ticketing systems. I think Brown Bag is another one. There's a few others. I end up sticking with Eventbrite, but I kind of just, because I'm a web designer, I normally just create my own page and just use the ticketing system. The reason why I favored Eventbrite was because it works, its API is friendlier with other systems. So, I mean, I do a lot of automation. That's something I didn't talk about yet, but I do a lot of automation. So, like, if someone comes into my event, they automatically add it to some kind of email listing of some sort. They automatically get something else. There's some kind of automated tweet based on the nature of the event. So I have a lot of systems like that. So that's why I end up favoring Eventbrite. But
So go into those more. What does that look like? If I'm going to an event of yours, how are you identifying that I'm getting a different line of communication than the person next to me who may be getting a completely different line? You've got these things preset.
Yeah. So this is one thing I would change if I hadn't created my own event application, but I hope I will, which I believe I will. But what I end up doing is, so for being that I still do events in New York too, so that's something I have to be very aware of, because you don't want someone getting the wrong information. As we create the event, there's going to be some kind of listing that they'll automatically be added to based on the nature of the event. So like, because you could segment your mailing list. So I just use it with MailChimp. That's like the most popular and very easy. They have a good API as well. So let's say you're coming to an event and it's tech related, then you'll likely be added to a list that's for Madison, but segmented into technology. So that's kind of like, actually just the simple version of it. And with MailChimp, as you sell a campaign, you can have an automatic tweet or Facebook message or whatever the case may be.
What you said good API 2 times with 2 different technologies. What does that mean, good API to you?
I guess I've seen APIs that are not friendly with the applications that it makes the most sense with. So I think MailChimp, they work with, like, whether it's Gmail, like pretty much they work with enough other APIs where you can create your own ecosystem if you want. And that's kind of what I do. So a lot of stuff become a lot more automated. That's what I mean by good. Some APIs are just not even tapped yet, where it's there, but it's like limitations. Like, for example, like Instagram's API, you can only upload via your mobile application, which I hate because I use Hootsuite. So like normally with all the different accounts in different industries, I like to use one dashboard for everything. So it's Instagram, although I hate the API because of that. Like,
so do you write to these APIs then?
A little bit, but normally I just work with a coder. I mean, I know how to present the idea and why it works, and then I kind of get someone who's really into coding and help develop that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to the messaging post-event then. So do you have an optimal quantity of messages and type of style that you use post-event? Like, I'm going to get 50 messages over the course of the next 365 days, or I'm going to get this level of messaging. Talk about how much messaging and how you personify the target's within the room, and what kind of different content you're presenting to each of them?
So it's all based on the project. So like a lot of the times, what is the event tied into? Is it tied into a product? Is it tied into another event? Is it tied into a product and another event? Is it tied into a larger event? Most of the time, what I end up doing, or any small event, is normally tied into a bigger event. So let's say I'm trying to think of an example without going into game night again. Let me think. All right, so one of the smaller events I do like a mixer, small mixer, 50 to 60 people, so nothing too big. But what we end up doing is there'll be a specific product or service that's offered there, that's showcased there. It's presented, but in a very positive light, so you have positive association. Whatever that product is, we'll send maybe the next 30 days, at least. There's some kind of message that's related to this idea that was conveyed at this mixer. Why we want to keep that going is because it keeps people's mind set on what they felt at that event, and also more likely to come to the next one that's relevant to that feeling. Because people don't necessarily remember what you said, they remember how they felt. So the social media campaign helps them satisfy, I remember what was said. So we end up saying like quotes that what was said at the last event. Here's some pictures of some of the funny stuff that happened at the event. Like we just kind of push that out for about 30 days. It would be less, only depending on what's the rest of the schedule and what's the campaign. So it's all based on, like everything has to be intentional. That's pretty much it. All intentional. Like I've done, like when I do my fashion week events, there's like 4 smaller events that helps create the lead for that one.
Yeah. So you've mentioned feeling a lot, and then you've also talked about data and data points. So tell me about how you see feeling or emotions-based marketing activities for events and big data. Well, how do you see those intersecting? How do you see those being played together?
I guess identifying engagement based on specific type of words, because if you was to put like all the data of keywords and everything you ever posted online, some words led to more engagement. A lot of that has to do with how the other person thinks and what they like, and the other side is what is their cognitive bias towards your brand or who you are. So like if me and Mark Cuban posted the same thing, it was gonna be different level of engagement. Just based on what people already know about us. So understanding like what keywords end up working for you. Like some people you ever seen, they can say something very aggressive. Everyone's like, yeah, and someone else says the same thing. It's like, why are you saying this? Why are you talking like this? Like, it's all based on this understanding. So data that can understand what, I guess, if there was a way to analyze which keywords work best for you or your brand, and kind of push that out to you and say, hey, use these words in this context, that would be ideal. I don't think there's anything ideal for that, but that's how I would put it together.
Yeah, cool. Any questions for Gregory as we wrap up here? If you want to hang out for a couple minutes.
Yeah, sure.
After, sometimes somebody might pop up with a question. Everybody good? Nina?
I'm sorry, I admit, as a millennial, I'm interested in your perspective. So you said you prefer the face-to-face event, and you've already alluded to sort of the emotional connection and that kind of thing. But could you share, what do you get from a face-to-face event that you can't get from an online event?
Body language, because sometimes that changes everything. I think we consciously and subconsciously respond to body language. So I think I think there's no replacement for that. That's why we go to live concerts, right? Because it's different. You can listen to it on the radio, or you could go to iTunes and listen to the same song. But we go to a live concert for a different type of experience. So that's it.
Body language from a model would be quite different.
You went down the line, right? That's like.
Good. Any other questions? Good. Well, thank you, Gregory.